I, 32, live in a quiet suburban neighborhood with my husband, John, 35, and our 2 young children. Our next-door neighbors, the Smiths, have always been a bit of a nuisance. Mr. Smith, 50, is constantly working on his car in the driveway, causing loud noises and fumes to waft into our yard. Mrs. Smith, 45, is a stay-at-home mom who lets her kids run wild, often causing havoc in our yard and leaving toys scattered everywhere. However, the breaking point came when they started parking their extra car in front of our house, taking up the space we usually use to park our own vehicles. At first, we tried to be polite and asked them to please park elsewhere, as it was becoming inconvenient for us. They brushed off our request, claiming that they had as much right to the street parking as we did. We decided to let it go and simply parked our vehicles in the driveway, which was a bit of an inconvenience but manageable. However, things took a turn for the worse when one day, I came home from work to find their car parked directly in front of our driveway, blocking us in completely. Fuming with anger, I stormed over to their house and pounded on their front door. Mr. Smith answered with a smug grin on his face, clearly enjoying the frustration he was causing us. I demanded that he move the car immediately, but he simply shrugged and told me that they were entitled to park wherever they pleased. I could feel my blood boiling as I realized that they were deliberately trying to antagonize us. Unable to control my anger, I threatened to have the car towed if it wasn't moved within the hour. Mr. Smith laughed in my face and slammed the door shut. I took a deep breath and tried to calm down, but the sheer audacity of their actions left me seething. I relayed the situation to John, who shared my frustration but urged me to let it go. He didn't want to escalate things further, especially with our children witnessing the confrontation. As the hours passed and the car remained parked in front of our driveway, my patience wore thin. I called the towing company and requested that the car be removed immediately. Within minutes, a tow truck arrived and the offending vehicle was hoisted up and taken away. I felt a momentary sense of satisfaction, knowing that we had finally taken action against the Smiths' blatant disrespect. However, my triumph was short-lived. The next day, as I was leaving for work, I was stopped in my tracks by the sight of our own car engulfed in flames. The fire department was already on the scene, but it was too late. Our vehicle was reduced to a charred heap, and the damage had spread to the side of our house. I was in shock, unable to comprehend how such a horrific act could have taken place. The authorities quickly launched an investigation, and suspicion fell on the Smiths. It was no secret that tensions had been running high between our families, and the timing of the arson was too coincidental to ignore. However, there was no concrete evidence linking them to the crime, as they denied any involvement and had an alibi for the time of the incident. In the following days, our relationship with the Smiths deteriorated even further. They lashed out at us, accusing us of falsely accusing them and causing unnecessary drama. Mrs. Smith even went as far as to spread rumors around the neighborhood, painting us as troublemakers and disruptors of the peace. Our once friendly neighbors had become bitter enemies, and there seemed to be no way to mend the rift between us. As we struggled to come to terms with the loss of our car and the damage to our home, I couldn't shake the feeling of guilt that gnawed at me. Had my actions triggered this disastrous chain of events? Was I to blame for escalating the conflict to such a dangerous level? The question haunted me day and night, leaving me racked with guilt and self-doubt. Now, as I stand amidst the ashes of our destroyed property, I can't help but wonder, am I the asshole? Update. Months passed since the fiery incident that destroyed our car and damaged our home. The tension between our families remained palpable, with no attempts at reconciliation from either side. The Smiths continued to spread rumors and gossip about us, turning many of our former friends against us. It felt like we were living in a constant state of isolation and betrayal. Despite the lack of concrete evidence linking the Smiths to the arson, deep down, I knew in my heart that they were responsible. The smug grin on Mr. Smith's face that day as he parked in front of our driveway was etched into my memory, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they had sought revenge for having their car towed. However, without proof, we were unable to take any legal action against them. The loss of our car had a significant impact on our family. Without reliable transportation, we struggled to make ends meet and juggle work and school schedules. The financial burden of having to repair the damage to our home only added to our stress and anxiety. Every day felt like an uphill battle, with no end in sight to the suffering and animosity that surrounded us. Conclusion. In the end, the question of whether I was the asshole for setting my neighbor's car on fire over a parking space still lingered in my mind. While I acknowledged that my actions may have contributed to the escalation of the conflict, I couldn't ignore the deliberate provocation and disrespect shown by the Smiths. The destructive consequences of their retaliatory act had far-reaching implications that left us reeling and struggling to pick up the pieces of our shattered lives. As our once peaceful neighborhood descended into a cauldron of bitterness and resentment, I realized that there could be no winners in this petty war between neighbors. Both sides were consumed by anger and hatred, unable to see beyond their own pain and suffering. The rift between us had grown too wide to be bridged, and the scars left by the arson ran deep. In the end, the flames of revenge had scorched our souls, leaving us all burnt and broken. The once friendly neighborhood we had called home was now a battlefield of mistrust and hostility. As I watched the Smiths move out of their house, leaving behind a trail of destruction and discord, I couldn't help but feel a sense of bitter satisfaction. But deep down, I knew that the victory was hollow, and the price we had paid for a parking space was too steep to justify. And so, in the end, both sides were left hating each other, each nursing their wounds and regrets in the shadow of the flames that had consumed our once peaceful community.